Hello and thanks for watching. This week we're going to be building a shooting board. So here's a picture of the general setup. You can see the bottom baseboard and then the top board on top of that we're going to actually shoot along. So the planer rests on the side of that baseboard, which is some stable plywood, and it'll run right along the top board here. And you can see how it's set up so that the blade rides just above the edge of that top board. And so this is going to be the first cut. And I set them up offset so that the planer has room to lie along the board, and then you can see the blade sliding along there. You only have to raise your table saw blade up just enough to cut through the wood. Don't always max it out. That's just a little safety tip. So now this is the glue up. We're just gluing those two panels together, and you want to make sure that they're perfectly flat and together and perfectly square. If your shooting board's not square, it doesn't do you any good. The other thing is to try to avoid some squeeze out on this, just because it's going to be a real pain to clean up. So you can see that I glue mostly in the middle, and then I roll it out to the edges so that there's not a whole lot of glue on the edges. So when I put it on, it won't all squeeze out towards the edge. So now we flip it on. You can see I've left that gap there for the planer to ride along, and you're just going to make sure it's all nice and square. So we got the whole thing squared up. We'll glue that down. Now I'm adding a little bench hook so that that'll hold in place as I shoot along. So that bench hook just attaches to the edge of the bench. I put this on square as well, although that's less important. This is just going to be how it aligns with your bench. It doesn't necessarily have to be square as long as the board is square to itself. That's me turning the camera off. This is just a little instruction on, well, my new saw. I paid $60 for that stupid saw. It's a 10-inch little dovetail saw, but I wanted to show it off. But it's just on how to make a straight cut if you don't have a shooting board. And so this is how I've been doing all of my cuts up until now. And what you can do is just look at the reflection in the saw, and you can see I've got it off alignment right now, but I'll turn it until there's going off alignment, and I'll turn it until those two reflections line up perfectly. And that's how you know you get a nice square cut right across the board. There you go. Oh, now this is me overdoing it the other way. So you can really see there's the reflection lined up. And then you can start your cut, and you know that you're going to get a nice square cut. The benefit of the shooting board is that you can guarantee without having to do that you're going to get some nice cuts each time. So now that piece that I've just cut, we're going to put that on the board. And this is going to be the piece that you square everything up against. So it is critical that this goes on perfectly square to that edge board. And so I'll line it up, glue it down, not too much clamp pressure because you don't want the clamps to put it out of square on their own. And then I'll check again. I check and recheck and check again to make sure that that bar going across is square. Again, if that's out of square, your shooting board is not going to do you any good. The whole point of the shooting board is to kind of trim up cuts to make them perfectly square, do some end grain planing without tear out, or just take a few thousandths of an inch passes off of the length of a board, or tenon or whatever you need, just to make sure it fits perfectly. And if this bar is out of square, you're going to throw all of your joinery out of whack. So there's me checking for a fourth or fifth time to make sure that's square after I've got the clamps on. Once that dries up, we see kind of the finished product here. I countersunk some screws. So I have two screws going down. This is me pointing them out right now. And just drill some pilot holes so you don't split that wood, and then countersink them. And that should help hold them in place and keep this square as long as possible. And then the other thing I did is so now we're shooting that little piece just as an example, and you can see it'll come out nice and square. The other thing to do is to round over the far corner of your bar, and that'll keep the end grain from splitting. But you can see that's a nice square cut that you can get. The last thing I'm going to do, which I don't show in this video, is just a little extra functionality. I'm trying to do mitered cuts, and so you can see I'm making a little preparation for the miters, and you can kind of see how that'll come together. But that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Love to hear your feedback. Thanks again.